Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of JVSCP, and also, Happy New Year! This week I don't have like a specific category or grouping for these SCPs. I guess you could say both of them are technically items, and only one of these two is actually safe, which I think is a kind of a rarity around here, right? But I won't keep you waiting here any longer, let's just get right into it. SCP-1609 by Rioghail from the SCP Wiki. Recommended to us here at JVSCP by Bobby Bulan. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-1609 is contained at Storage Site 08 due to the difficulty of transporting it from that location. 1609 is to be contained in a specially designed enclosure at that site, within a flower bed in which a range of aesthetically pleasing flowers and plants are to be cultivated. It is to be used as mulch within this flower bed. The flower bed is to be tended regularly, and all visitors to the enclosure must remark on the beauty of the flower bed, with particular emphasis on the quality of the mulch. SCP-1609 is to be removed from the flower bed at regular intervals so that it can be treated with wood, metal, and fabric preservatives. Personnel are to announce their intentions in the presence of 1609 before attempting to remove it for this purpose. Personnel assigned to 1609 are required to wear plain clothes in order to prevent accidentally triggering a violent response from 1609. No items with motors are allowed within a 200-meter radius of 1609's containment area. No personnel either presently or previously affiliated with the Global Occult Coalition, nor material referencing them, are to be allowed within Storage Site 08. In the event of a violent reaction from 1609, all personnel are to exit the immediate vicinity and a message is to be played over the site's interior speakers, informing site staff of the event. Should 1609 be sighted outside of its containment area following a violent reaction, staff are to act in a submissive, non-threatening manner. Formal clothing such as jackets, lab coats, protective clothing, jumpsuits, and particularly body armor are to be removed if possible in the case of such an event, and any weapons capable of damaging 1609 are to be immediately discarded. Staff are to ask 1609 to return to containment without attempting to threaten or command it. Should 1609 exit Storage Site 08, agents are to be immediately dispatched in order to scan the surrounding area for 1609 and, if possible, retrieve it. At present, there exists no way to totally prevent 1609 from breaching containment. Current containment procedures center on encouraging 1609 to remain within its containment area. Description: SCP-1609 is, at present time, a pile of splinters, wood chippings, furniture nails, and scraps of bleached leather and fabric, weighing in total approximately kilograms. The wooden portions of SCP-1609 are made of oak, and the nails are made of steel. SCP-1609 is capable of teleportation, being capable of moving its entire mass instantaneously between 2 points without any known limit. SCP-1609 usually uses this to bring its consistent parts together when parts of SCP-1609 have been removed from the mass, but SCP-1609 can teleport its entire mass at once, on at least one occasion at a distance of kilometers. 1609 is capable of splitting its mass, though it does this rarely. Any amount of material removed from 1609's mass continues to display SCP-1609's properties. 1609 has resisted all attempts to remove it from the confines of Storage Site 08, teleporting back to the site of its own accord. However, it has previously teleported out of Storage Site 08 for brief periods before returning, although this has only happened on occasions since its arrival in Foundation custody. SCP-1609 appears to be in some way sentient, as research indicates it is able to perceive its environment in a manner that is currently poorly understood, and is able to react to stimuli in an intelligent fashion. Details of 1609's behavior are poorly understood, although it has been ascertained that it will react in self-preservation and will react aggressively to certain stimuli, which it connects with a threat to its existence. Aside from this, SCP-1609 appears to prefer situations in which it is utilized by humans and will actively seek out situations where it can be put to use if it is left idle. This is the reason for the Foundation's present use of 1609 as mulch, as this prevents 1609 from becoming idle and attempting to leave Storage Site 08. It is theorized that 1609 is capable of understanding human speech or thought, although this cannot be determined, as it does not comply with tests designed to gauge its awareness of such stimuli. When exposed to a number of specific stimuli, SCP-1609 will react violently. During a typical violent reaction from 1609, it will teleport a portion of its mass inside the lungs of nearby personnel, causing immediate and severe lacerations to the interior of the lungs, as well as pulmonary obstruction, which rapidly leads to the victim's death. Stimuli which can instigate a violent reaction from 1609 include personnel wearing the uniform of, or clothes similar to the uniform of, personnel affiliated with the Global Occult Coalition. Utterance of the words or phrases used heavily or exclusively by GOC operatives, such as, quote, threat entity, unquote. While in contact with 1609, any action demonstrating hostility towards 1609. And the sound of a running motor. Violent responses from SCP-1609 are rare. Only such events have occurred since containment, and SCP-1609 quickly reverts to a passive state after such a response if it does not continue to feel threatened. SCP-1609 arrived in Foundation custody on after teleporting into an unused containment cell at Storage Site 08 in its current state. Careful investigation has revealed that SCP-1609 was originally a large chair made of varnished oak and bleached leather, carved in the form of a reclining woman in a restful state. 1609 appears to have possessed its anomalous properties in this state, albeit with certain limitations, namely that the object would only teleport when a person within a certain radius, currently unknown, felt the need to sit down or rest without a comfortable seat or chair nearby. At this point, 1609 would teleport to them and remain in place until another person experienced a similar urge. On both Foundation operatives and members of the Global Occult Coalition were made aware of the existence of SCP-1609, which was given the temporary designation of E-622. Due to the hard-to-contain nature of 1609 and the possibility of its existence causing a breach of secrecy regarding the existence of supernatural phenomena, a small-scale effort to contain 1609 was launched by the GOC forces. It is presently unknown how exactly GOC operatives captured 1609, but it is known that they succeeded in reducing the object into its current form by using a wood chipper. Further attempts to destroy 1609 failed, due to its properties and ability to teleport away from sources of danger. Following this event, several members of the Global Occult Coalition died under unusual circumstances. Investigation through both official channels and embedded Foundation agents within the GOC has potentially linked SCP-1609 to at least 3 deaths of personnel within the Coalition, although the true number of casualties amassed due to their mishandling of the item is unknown. SCP-1609 then arrived in Foundation custody. It is unknown how 1609 was aware of the existence of the Foundation, although it is theorized that it entered Foundation custody due to a low risk of further damage to itself. Addendum Document 1609-1
SCP-1609 presents a perfect example of the flaws inherent in the operating procedure of the GOC, and serves as a cautionary tale for any members of the Foundation who disagree with our practices of containing dangerous objects. Prior to the Coalition getting their hands on this, it was perfectly harmless. A chair which teleports to you when you need a seat is normal compared to most of the stuff that we deal with on a regular basis. When they put it through a wood chipper, it got hurt, scared, and angry, so it lashed out at them. By trying to protect the world by destroying it, they inadvertently made the situation a whole lot worse. SCP-1609 went from being harmless to deadly in the space of a few minutes because the GOC, and we had to clean up the mess. Thankfully, SCP-1609 is pretty simple for us to deal with, so long as we don't do anything stupid around it. It won't fight back, it won't try to leave. Even if it does, it usually comes back. I think I've worked out why. It came to us because it was afraid of the people who had hurt it. That's why it always comes back. It's afraid of the rest of the world now, and it's looking for us for protection. This is why we have special containment procedures instead of special destruction procedures. If you break something, it's broken forever. When you try to destroy an anomaly, you can't take back your mistakes. That's what SCP-1609 has to tell us. This is why we're right and the GOC is wrong, people. Signed, Dr. Sivert.
And that was 1609. Personally, while I think the message is, well, true, but also very cute, it's still kind of a bit heavy-handed with the way, especially the addendum at the end kind of like, points it out, I think, a bit too much. But overall, I think the entry is such a fun one that I don't think it bothers me too much. I don't think it takes away from the overall entry too much. Now, I know that a lot of the people who watch these videos on our channel do know most of the general kind of overarching lore of the Foundation, but there are some people who are much more new to this kind of overarching lore and universe of the Foundation, and those people might have been a bit confused with me mentioning the Global Occult Coalition. So why don't we just go over the GOC real quick. Now, like always, there is no official canon for the SCP Foundation, so all of the details of when and how can of course change, but based on my own understanding and the official group of interest entry on the wiki, the Global Occult Coalition was this kind of, coalition of, quote, occultists, psychics, priests, and scientists from Nazi, Soviet, and Allied states brought together and formed by the Allies. And this was in the aftermath of World War II. So kind of think like the real-world Operation Paperclip, in which the United States took scientists from Nazi Germany and employed them in the space race within NASA to help their space and moon landing programs. So something similar to that, where the Allied states basically put together this force which was meant to deal with these anomalous things that had appeared or had become kind of mainstream enough, where these states had a united interest in keeping a lid on things. And unlike the Foundation, which generally speaking is seen as a more defensive force which seeks to understand and contain these anomalies and protect humanity through that, the Global Occult Coalition is the more aggressive version of that. So they seek to destroy anomalies, which also of course includes killing sentient anomalous human beings. And because the Global Occult Coalition was, state-funded, at least at some point, it is big enough that the Foundation cannot just take it out completely. And of course, there have been cases and SCP entries in which the Foundation has taken help from the Global Occult Coalition to, for example, contain a security breach. But generally speaking, from a overall more top-down, writing out-of-universe perspective, the Global Occult Coalition can be used as kind of like the human enemy for the Foundation. Some kind of adversary that is not equal in strength, but close enough that it can bring some nice tension to a story. and like in this case, where you can highlight the good parts of the Foundation's containment efforts, you know? But with that, that's the Global Occult Coalition and, of course, SCP-1609. So let's move on to the next one. SCP-2319 by MisterBibs from the SCP Wiki. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. Due to its depth and historical lack of governmental or commercial interest in its location, SCP-2319's containment is considered de facto. In order to maintain this in perpetuity, an international cordon has been established around SCP-2319. At this time, the Foundation does not agree on the long-term survivability of 2319. Based on degradation caused by the hostile environment surrounding it, it is assumed that 2319 will continue to deteriorate. It is unclear if such deterioration will reduce the current anomalous properties. Description: SCP-2319 is the location and contents of a shipwreck off the southern coast of Australia. Its specific coordinates are -39.45 degrees latitude and 132.42 degrees longitude. The wreckage and materials recovered appear to be identical, with one significant difference, see below, to the wreckage of the RMS Titanic, which sank on April 15, 1912. All materials returned from 2319's wreckage have been dated to specifications that would have been in use in 1912, with the exception of one item, see addendum. All damage/deterioration of 2319 is consistent with 100 years of seafloor existence. SCP-2319 was discovered by outside sources on October 7th and contained by the Foundation 3 weeks later under the guise of a low-level ecological disaster. Maps and seabed scans in the historical record show no reported claims of shipwreck and/or corresponding seabed disruption prior to the discovery of SCP-2319. Compared to the wreckage of the Titanic, SCP-2319 is mirrored along the longitudinal axis. Existing maps of the Titanic, once flipped east-west, are identical to SCP-2319 in all major landmarks. Footnote: for example, the Titanic's bow points broadly northeast, with the aft section south, with a large debris field to the east. In SCP-2319's case, the bow points broadly northwest, with the large debris field west of the aft wreckage. The current surface terrain surrounding 2319 is as identical to the ones found at the current Titanic wreckage location, if also mirrored. All written text in the wreckage is also mirrored. For example, the artboard reads, This includes more contemporary commemorative plaques. The only other noticeable difference between 2319 and the remains of the Titanic is the remaining paintworks on the hull indicate that instead of a red underside, 2319's lower hull coloring is green. As with the Titanic wreckage, a unique ecosystem of anemones, crabs, shrimp, starfish, and rattail thrives within the wreckage of 2319. As of this writing, all attempts at bringing samples of the fauna to the surface for study have failed, as all samples die within a 2.1 to 3.2 kilometers of 2319. Footnote: initial findings hint that the creatures have died inexplicably of asphyxiation, despite being stored in waters directly from SCP-2319. Examination of the remains of creatures recovered from SCP-2319 show varying degrees of situs transvenous. Polarimetry results of recovered organic materials show similar mirroring of D-alkyrolites. X-ray crystallography confirmed an abundance of L sugars and D-amino acids in these samples.
Addendum SCP-2319-A. Originally deemed an aberrant system malfunction, reports of submersible navigation issues have become more consistent while exploring SCP-2319. Pilots report random moments where commands to move to port result in starboard motion. Complete repair of MROVs has not and does not solve the issues. Addendum SCP-2319-B. Foundation experts studying artifacts removed from 2319 have reported increased feelings of nausea and disorientation from midterm exposure to all artifacts. The effect is described as disorienting, but not incapacitating. As of all teams studying artifacts for upwards of 8 hours a day are required to spend 24 hours away from all SCP-2319 borne materials. Addendum SCP-2319-C. A recent exploration of SCP-2319 has revealed a unique artifact, dubbed SCP-2319-2. Buried under a bulkhead with debris and weathering corresponding to 100 years of sediment was a contemporary airtight safe, containing a clear plastic plate with the following phrases etched onto it. Preliminary translation reads: Retainment unsuccessful. Dimensional plastic untenable. To those we failed to forgive.
And that was 2319. It's a good one. I mean, I love locations. Of course, I'll like it because it's a safe class and it's a location, and I really like this. I mean, both me and Jeff have mentioned that we really enjoy entries that leave a lot of room for your mind to do a lot of work. And while I do think there's a pretty simple explanation here, basically just this is from another version of Earth that got transported to our Earth somehow, but that's kind of the only thing that's clear about it, because you could explain this by saying that the other world where this Titanic got transported from is mirrored, and that's why it appears mirrored to us. Maybe it's just the transportation process that makes it mirrored. There's also the plaque that says retainment, so somebody, maybe the other foundation from that universe, is trying to get it back. So maybe they have some way of, like they mentioned, dimensional plastic, so maybe they have some way of either transporting things or traversing these like dimensions. There could also be a non-multiverse theory here. Like maybe it's just the anomaly is not the wreck itself. Maybe it's just the location that just grabs some significant piece of something. Maybe it's just random. It could just be random, and it just grabs some part of the seafloor and somehow like duplicates it, but it becomes mirrored. There's a lot here, and I really like. It's very simple. I also love these kinds of entries. People must have noticed at this point that I love entries where the entity, the location, the item itself doesn't really do anything. It just exists, and its existence is either anomalous in nature or the effects are something that it doesn't have control over. I really like this one. But that's it for this episode, or first of this year. Here at the end of this episode, while I'm being moved on to the corner of the screen, and also the patrons and YouTube members are going to be... Are they over here? Wait, which way am I gonna be in the... Yeah, they're over here. I don't know if my fucking red square is gonna be in the way of my finger, but they're over there. Last time I said they were over here. So now I'm gonna be correct and say that they're over there. Those are our patrons and YouTube members who we appreciate very much. Thank you so much for all of the support, and another huge thank you to just everybody who's been watching these videos. Thank you so much. Being able to work on these has been an absolute pleasure, and seeing all of the support in the comments and just by leaving a like or just by watching really means a lot. So thank you all so much. And here's to another year of JVSCP. So we have some cool plans. I hope you'll get to see them at some point. Well, I won't spoil anything more than that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a lovely weekend. I'll see you next week. Wait, no, I might not see you next week. It might be Jeff. I'll see you at some point. And if we don't come back next week, our schedule has always been kind of a mess. Well, we'll be seeing you soon. Either me or Jeff will be seeing you soon. So thank you so much for watching. I'll stop rambling now. Bye bye for real. Bye bye.